When I was younger, people would ask me, well, why are you an artist? And I'd always try to think of an answer. Because to people outside of the practice of it, it might not seem useful, financially viable, real to people. And then finally I came upon it. You can't not be an artist if that's what you are. There is no option, because it's the way you know how to live. It's the way that you know how, in your stories, to tell of a world as you think it should be or could be or would be. You are the one who can do that. It's just a way of life, and I don't think it will change. My path to becoming an artist is very layered. I come out of a family of artists, so there was a certain predictability or maybe expectation. I noticed that the minute I showed an aptitude, my family seemed to want to support that. Most people don't. The children as an artist, and they go, oh, can't you think of something else you'd like to do to make a living? But not in my family. Moving the pencil and thinking there was something magic about the line that came out of the pencil, and then finally realizing I'm making the line. So my father got me an easel when I was a child to make a space for me so that I could be an artist. That's kind of my heritage. I think of it that way. Often people ask me about my preoccupation with history. And I tell them it really isn't history. I am not a historian. It's memory. I am concerned with memory because it's functional to me. It's a bridge between the living and the dead, between the past and the present. There's something about memory that instills in us a sense, I think, of hope. Because when we know the stories of the past and we see what people have gone through for us in our families, it gives you hope. It makes you feel as though you too can do this for someone else. So I see memory as this thread that keeps linking us together. So even though the work I'm doing might be about family histories, what they're really about are family memories. My father shared his memories with us, and now I share memories of my father and mother with others. When I first started doing the altars, I started doing things that had to do with pre-Columbian life. So sometimes I made them look like archaeological digs, and they were small things done at people's homes. And I didn't really start working with the notion of the ofrenda. And I like to make a distinction, even though as Chicanos I think we use the word interchangeably, because altares or altars are really the permanent ongoing record of the family life. Whereas the ofrenda or offering is temporal, and it's only there for the days of the dead. But I think we call them both altars. I did my first public ofrenda at Galeria de la Raza in 1976. And then when I got involved in the Chicano movement, it was almost like enlisting in an army, and everybody had duty. My duty turned out to be to do the ofrendas and the altares. And I don't know how it came about, maybe because I had this interest in it. Some of the early ones were quite collective. the one for Frida Kahlo that has been depicted in a number of books, is really Carmen Lomas Garza, Renee Yanez, and myself. So it started very early on in the 70s, and then I kept on doing them over the years, and then at some point I began to break away from it. Although I have to say that even in pieces that don't look like altars, if you look around, you'll find a tiny little shrine somewhere in the room. So it is part of a practice. I've found a way to merge scholarship and art in the process of the way that I work because I do installations. So I am free to sort of invent the form, which I have. So my form borrows from home altars, ofrendas to the dead, descansos or roadside shrines, capillas, yard shrines, and other forms of, I guess you would say, spiritual practice. So all of those kind of weave in and out of the way I decide to tell a story. This is an ofrenda for my sister, Judy Mesa. In some respects, it's an homage to her, but it's also, I think, a remembrance at the same time. My sister was 16 years younger than me, and so she was my baby sister. She had been ill for 20 years and lived with us. So it's also a story of sisters. This is the vanity she would be sitting at if she were fixing her hair, putting on her makeup. And many of the objects on here are photos of her and her niece. She loved Marie Antoinette. She loved the whole story of it. Mixed in with the attributes of glamour and beauty are also the tradition of the Days of the Dead. So generally on an ofrenda or an offering, you place something for the spirit's remembrance of drink and food. And so I gave her Godiva and champagne because it seems so fitting. So all of these little pieces, and I've mixed them together in a kind of a moment. It's like a moment, as if this beautiful young girl sat down on her chair and looked into the mirror, and she would see the specter of death, which is Coatlicue, the Earth Mother. But she would continue to engage in the artifice of beauty that women often do. I did the ofrenda for my mother after she passed, for my father, for my brother, and now it's my sister. Most artists are telling a story. And to some degree, I think most of us are following a particular set of questions over time. And they don't really change. The way we answer them changes. But I would say that most artists has a narrative that flows through it. Now, some people are very big on being conceptual artists. I have no embarrassment about being a narrative artist. I have no embarrassment about telling a story, because I think that's kind of my job. I use sometimes my family history as a vehicle for talking about larger issues. So my story might be about immigration, or my story might be about the life of women, or my story might be about the place we live in, the concept of a kind of social landscape. So all of these stories I've been telling, for maybe 40 years, and the stories have had to do with Mexicanos, Chicanos, Latinos. They've had to do largely with women in the last maybe 20 years. And the stories are also about our resiliency, how it is that we survive in difficult times. But it isn't just about me. It's about others like me. And I feel my job is to tell their stories.